Hey homies, you know what I like about Barony? The difficulty. Before your game starts, you can change these game flags, and it makes your game easier or harder. Not by making the enemies any tougher, unless, you know, you turn on hardcore mode. No. So let's say you don't like boulders, or minotaurs, or, I don't know, hunger. You can actually disable all of these things, and if you're really not a big fan of these features, turning them off can really help you out. But no. Let's say you're a maniac, and you want all of the hard, difficult features and rules. Even hardcore mode, why not? But no. You can go one step further, because there's a bunch of different classes to choose from. Now let's say that you chose the hardest class you could possibly choose. Why do we have this challenge? I don't know, but I do it. So how exactly do you make your game so difficult? The Joker class is hard as shit because he's got really bad stuff. But we can talk about that later. Right now, I gotta set up the game flags. All the difficult and painful features are kept on for this challenge. That means dealing with hunger, minotaurs, dart traps, boulder traps, friendly fire, and don't forget, hardcore mode works by drastically increasing the health, damage, and awareness of every enemy in the game. The improved monsters have become so deadly that even rats and slimes will kill off most humans and players starting off. Now, I know that sounds bad, but what makes it worse is the fucking... They start with practically nothing for weapons, combat skills, or honestly any skills for that matter. Their equipment is also really strange, because they come with some of the most useless items in the game, as well as the most powerful items in the game. Like this ring of levitation. It causes the wielder to float above the ground as long as they keep it on. That's it. But it can be used to safely kill enemies by abusing bottomless pits. So it's important to find these safe locations around the map and lure enemies to them so you can just kind of, you know, punch them to death. He also has cream pies. They could be thrown at enemies, I guess. But nah, real talk. This ring of levitation is the only reason that I think Joker is possible for this challenge. The enemies in this game are so strong that it's practically required to fight enemies either over gaps or from a safe distance. So to ease the difficulty of this challenge a bit for myself, there's two things that I plan to do. I'm gonna grind XP and I'm gonna buy some stuff. The XP helps me go from trash to sort of trash, and the shopping means that I can gear myself up and die absolutely brimming with goodies. It's great. Anyways, it's time to see what makes this challenge so,
SpongeBob, what time is it? Yeah! What the?
The beginning of the game is slow, and it's scary, because at level 1, the Joker's weak as Being in hardcore mode just makes it 10 times worse, as the Joker has almost no weapons or skills for combat. This sucks ass. But it also allows us to choose which weapon to specialize in. And over time, I opted for the pole arm or spear. It had a lot of benefits, like being able to obtain it early on or having a guaranteed legendary spear in the future. So yeah, I gotta choose that.
Not that way.
Stage 1 is where I take my time to slowly and carefully not f***ing die while I kill off the enemies one by one and hopefully level up at least a few times before I advance to the next stage. Rats could be whittled down with a slingshot while I used melee and kept just the right distance for skeletons and other big enemies. If I'm lucky enough to gain perception when I level up, I can pick up some items and start appraising them, but I otherwise leave them behind because they're too heavy, and I focus only on cheap, lightweight items such as cheese or apples.
What the f is this piece of shit?
Stage 2 is a very important stage, if you make it here, because it has a not-so-secret trapdoor hiding in this structure somewhere on the map. Entering this alternate door will instead take you to the Gnomish Mines, a place filled to the brim with loot and enemies who will absolutely rock my shit in a 1v1. So instead of running at them head on, we just kind of take them down slowly and one at a time. We can use the gnomes' lightning stabs against them, and the pickaxes can be used to collect gold to spend at the shop that spawns on this floor right here. At the other corner just south from the shop is the artifact helmet, which is really good, but also heavy as fuck for my frail noodle body. Looting the Gnomish Mines is scary, but also very useful since you can obtain so much good loot and experience early on. Stages 3 and 4 of the mines are so much easier than the previous ones thanks to the gnomes' equipment, and apart from the rare mine town you could occasionally find on the 3rd stage, there's not much else going on here. Regardless, I still like to take my time and take out as many enemies as I can. Any experience that we gain along the way will make the late game more forgiving, so it's vital that we collect as much of that sweet, sweet nectar as possible.
I have levitation. Let me pop this on.
Oh my. With enough deaths and redos, I eventually survived to the next area, the swamp. And this area offers a whole new bag of bullshit to deal with. Traps will be laid out more frequently. Large open areas allow for more enemy detection and awareness, and the new enemies and weapons they carry will prove fatal. Or she tried to enslave him rather, but what? Ghouls are slow, but they're very f***ing tanky. Kinda like the swamp's troll if they were a little weaker and more numerous. Goblins are like the swamp skeletons and are usually dealt with in a similar fashion. However, goblins are known to occasionally spawn with fire-related weapons, and fire damage is the biggest pain in my ass. The insane threats this new area has to offer means I have to become hyper aware of my surroundings and try to pick as many cheap 1v1s as I possibly can just to survive. Like, it's f***ing scary out here, dude. There's goblins with fire staffs. I'm gonna die. Similar to the Mayans, Similar to the mines, the first stage has nothing really special going on for it, but the second and third stage of the swamp also has their own special secret trap doors. Entering the secret door on stage 7 takes you to this fancy stronghold full of goblins and trolls in their dumb little observation cages. Look at these little stupid idiots. I throw rock at them. You can find and obtain the green orb here to boost your stats when you fight the boss, but collecting this orb will allow some of the enemies to roam free, and other loot on this stage can't really be obtained without getting past some enemies or hazards, or just mining. Just use a pickaxe, bro. The next secret stage is a whole different story. This stage is suspiciously quiet and empty, with large bridges and a castle in the center with additional loot to be found around the outside. Inside the castle are some chests and the legendary artifact boots, which we also kind of just sell.
Hello, I like money.
However, if you pick this up, a bunch of tombstones will rise above outside the castle, and tons of ghouls will spawn the second you leave that damn building. It is the stuff of nightmares. Now, I know I said that ghouls are usually just slow and tanky dumbasses, but these ghouls are a whole different package. They're much faster, they deal serious damage with each attack, and can pierce through your armor and gain life back with their attacks. Normally, fighting the ghouls in hardcore is an absolute death wish, but with Joker's trusty ring of cheating, this stage essentially just turns into a free XP farm if you're willing to hit the left click button a bunch of times for the next 5 minutes of your life. You suck. After killing a bunch of these ghouls though, my XP will be absolutely pimping, and we make the final swamp stage a breeze to clear. So the first 10 stages of the game were full of trial and error, but making it through is a big achievement for the hardcore challenge. However, that joy is gonna quickly end, because we are traveling to the Sand Labyrinth next. And boy, do I hate the Sand Labyrinth!
What kind of place is this?
Ah, the Sand Labyrinth. Of all the areas you travel to in Barony, this one is easily my least favorite. Eat a fart sandwich. It introduces some new enemies and threats, but there's something else about this place that I want to talk about first. The map design itself. Before you keep going with this video though, like and subscribe. I like your support. Support me, please. The overall size of each stage increases by a considerable amount, going from the swamp to the labyrinth. How much larger is the map exactly? Well, for scale, this is what a fully revealed mine stage looks like. Now here's a fully revealed swamp stage. Pretty much the same. Now this is what a sand labyrinth looks like when fully revealed. Are you seeing the problem here? Does it all make sense? The Sand Labyrinth, dog. Getting lost or just taking a lot of time to find an exit becomes more frequent in this area. There's some big open areas similar to the swamp that kinda ease the feeling, but the narrow winding tunnels you can find just about everywhere else makes it significantly worse. Stages 11 and 13 have their own secret stages that are much easier to locate than the regular trap door, thanks to the secret room entrance being large, open, and surrounded by glowing lava. Oh, and there's also this spike trap. They just spawn naturally in the labyrinth. It does a little pokey poke. Hurts like hell, and it can very easily spell death if your health is already low. It sucks major and I hate running into it because I do it a lot. Besides that, the dirt and boulder traps seem to be more frequent as well, and pitfalls make a daring return to slow you down even further, unless you're the Joker. The Joker doesn't give a shit. Now for the enemies. They all suck. Scorpions can paralyze you and can easily wipe you out if they sneak up on you. Scarabs are a little similar, but they trade the paralyzing sting attack for magic resistance. Like a lot of magic resistance. Insectoids are similar to goblins, just a lot stronger. They carry better equipment, they're faster and more aware, they have overall better stats, They can throw ranged weapons at you, and they can even spray acid up close to melt your armor. Thanks to the reintroduction of pitfalls in this area, the Joker's levitation ring can once again be used over gaps to cheese a lot of enemies to death. But more and more enemies will carry ranged weapons in this area, so the strat unfortunately has its limits. Alright, I really hate this place. Let's just get on to the secret. Stage 11's secret room is really simple. Some gods named Succubun or whatever the want you to push a bunch of boulders around this room until they're all in the pits found in the corners. If you manage to do that without getting any of the boulders stuck, then congratulations, you get this super sick legendary bracer and a fat stack of cash. Cash. The bracer gives a lot of armor, is indestructible, and gives magic resistance, which is super good later on. So getting this is a must. Stage 13's secret room is another one I don't like to pass up, but it's not quite as simple. When you pick up the orb, you gotta run like hell, because this big enraged minotaur will spawn and it will immediately start running you down. Speed and a general sense of direction is basically required to make this secret room possible.
What it is time for, we're gonna run.
Whoop. All right, get in here, grab Gungnir, go this way. We're gonna go down here, slap that, boom, done. Yeah, so this spear's a massive W. The spear is unbreakable, meaning I don't have to worry about it, you know, being replaced. It even has this super cool on-hit chance to pierce enemy armor. This is also based on your polearm skill, which is why you kind of want to upgrade it. Grabbing scrolls is also a really good idea because we could potentially enchant the spear or just repair it, and that will increase its damage even more.
Plus 10. It's a plus 10 polearm.
Even if you don't upgrade this thing, the Gungnir will still shred through your enemies like a hot knife through butter or, you know, insectoid flesh, so don't even worry about it. The Sand Labyrinth size might be really annoying, but the increased size does mean more enemies to kill and more items to loot if you take your time and loot efficiently. Just try not to run into any spike traps like I do. Just don't. But after slowly grogging through the Sand Labyrinth, we come across the final area before the Baron, known as the Ruins. It isn't nearly as big or confusing as the Labyrinth, thank fucking goodness, but it still has plenty of difficulty. All the strong enemies from the previous areas can be found here, along with some really evil dudes like young vampires, demons, and even incubi. Oh yeah, those stupid gnomes are here too. If you didn't like the traps from the previous area, you're definitely not gonna like it here either. Boulders, arrow traps, and spike traps are littered everywhere, as well as tons of this spell trap that can fire in all directions, very similar to the ones that you see in the Gnomish Mines. Besides that though, the stage design itself is 10 times more forgiving than the Labyrinth. It's not nearly as large in size, and the areas are far more open and very rarely include narrow corridors or tunnels. It also has secret room entrances on the 16th and 18th stage, or you know, first and third floor, kind of like the Labyrinth. The secret room on stage 18 brings you to the underworld, which we just skip because we don't really want to go there on hardcore. The first secret room is the really important one. You don't want to pass that one up. Known as the Mystic Library, it holds tons and tons of chests that will usually hold spellbooks or magical scrolls. Magic users will rejoice upon finding this room, as you almost never leave this place without some new magical knowledge lodged into your skull cavity.
Wow, look at all these books.
You can also obtain this final blue mystic orb here, which offers some really good buffs for the boss fight, something that you really don't want to pass up, trust me. The tried and true pick cheap 1v1 strat falls off very hard here, so by this point it's a good idea to become strong enough to hold your own in most fights. Because of this, I'll actually start grinding the blocking skill early on so I can face tank just about anything that gets in my way. Magic attacks are now a big issue here, since so many enemies and traps are littered throughout the stage that can deal magic damage. This is why magic resist gauntlets are a must. There are other forms of magic resist that we can get, like the magical steel shield or the ring of magic resistance, but those aren't reliably obtainable like the gauntlets, so I don't really count on it. Large open areas combined with the small map size means you can very easily locate not just the trapdoor, but even more loot and enemies. If I get good loot, and I'm buff as fuck, I can clear stages of all the goodies and become much stronger with each new stage I enter. That's not only faster given the circumstances, but the abundance of tougher enemies means the experience will come pouring out of them and straight in... Why did I write that? We made it! Stage 20, the big bad Baron himself.
Welcome to your doo-doo, mortal.
Baron Herx is extremely scary if you're ill-prepared or underleveled. He dashes around the room, and that makes it really difficult to attack him. He summons minions throughout the fight. He blasts you with beams of lightning, and can even plunge the room into darkness when he reaches low health. Getting up in his face to combo him and retreating at the right times are extremely crucial to this fight. Quick feet and fast reflexes will allow you to dodge his magical attack bursts, and the short cooldown between strikes means you can get up in his face a little bit before he charges up another blast. But hey, with patience and pure skill, you can kick Baron Herx's ass, listen to his dumb little death cry, and beat Barony.
If you're on classic mode.
Well, wait a minute.
The Baron's defeat is a pretty big achievement, which is why it makes sense that the next stage is sort of a rest stop. This place is known as a Hamlet, and it's like a little safe haven checkpoint of sorts between the first half of the game and the second half of the game. There's a lot of humans here. Normally they're actually pretty good, but on hardcore mode they get wrecked. There's a ton of shops out here in Hamlet, so before you go, look through every shop before moving on and see if there's anything that you can get from them that could help you later, like potions or equipment. It could take time to look through all the shops in Hamlet, and the equipment that you buy around here could be kind of expensive if you don't have a high trading skill or a lot of gold, but considering how difficult the next half of the game is going to be on this challenge, it's absolutely necessary. So we do a little bit of shopping, we do a little bit of recruiting, and we get ourselves prepared for the next part of the game. You gotta absolutely make sure you're as prepared as you can get before you enter this portal, because once you go in, there is no turning back, and the difficulty is going to ramp up exponentially. Between the Hamlet and the true final boss of the game, you have to get through two more areas first. The first one is the Crystal Caves, and this place introduces just about all of the new enemies that you're going to bump into. You'll see a few familiar faces here, like stronger scarabs or insectoids, you know, the whole shebang. But you'll be introduced to a lot of newer, stronger enemies as well. The first of which being the Kobold, and they're quite numerous around here. Luckily, they're not too strong, but they have massive levels of magic resistance, which could make it a little difficult to deal with them depending on how you play. The Incubus is also here and is much stronger, which would be a problem, but since I'm playing as the Automaton, that's not much of an issue. Oh, that reminds me, you probably noticed that I'm playing as the Automaton. Functionally, they're incredibly similar to the humans, and I choose them because I love the trade grind. But I also choose them over humans because despite their insane weaknesses, like weakness to magic, they also come with some incredibly useful resistances and buffs. Don't even get me started on the fire resistance that this guy comes with. What did you just break? You're a bitch, you know that? There's two new notable enemies that you'll see in this area that I want to talk about, and they are the absolute worst of the worst. The first one is the Crystal Golem. He's a slow, lumbering behemoth with tons of health and defense. Each attack that he lands on you will deal serious amounts of damage, and he can even wind up a slam attack that is guaranteed to kill you in hardcore. And the other one is the Cockatrice, and this is the stuff of nightmares. Incredibly fast, insane amounts of damage, and 1,000 HP on hardcore mode. Holy f***ing shit, dude. The Crystal Golem and the Cockatrice are some insane threats, and I do not ever want to get hit by them off guard. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my god. Which is why it's really crucial that I try and find these guys first and pick them out on their own, similar to how I would deal with things like trolls and skeletons early on. Speaking of the Cockatrice, there's actually a strategy that I like to use involving the Cockatrice that's a little bit insane. Long story short, we are going to dominate a Cockatrice or two into our service.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But this costs a lot of mana and potentially some health depending on the enemy's HP. And remember what I said about the Cockatrice's HP? That's why it is required that we whittle down the Cockatrice's health before we even dominate him. We will literally die if we do it otherwise. That's also why I like to have a lot of forms of of healing, whether it's heal potions or heal spells. It gets a little tedious at times and the cockatrices can die often, but you'll usually just find another one, so who cares? There is also a secret room found on the 3rd floor of the Crystal Caves, but we don't really go to it, so we'll skip over it. Other than that, this area is a very good showing of why I like to get incredibly over-leveled and over-geared before I even come here. The giant boost in difficulty is only further increased by Hardcore, and since we're playing as the Joker class with all the hard game flags, I gotta at least try and make it a little easier for myself. Anyways, after doing that and hopefully not getting body slammed by a crystal golem, we eventually make our way to the final area of the game before the Magisters, the Citadel. This is every single worst aspect you could possibly think of from all the maps exists bundled up into one shit show for this area, and it hurts a lot. So what problems does the Citadel have exactly? The map size is huge. There's very few open areas and many small enclosed areas. Tons of new enemies are littered everywhere. Locked gates exist all over the place with levers that you have to pull in order to open them. Long hallways with spell traps to just slow you down. And seriously, how the f can you even tell that this is a shop? The Citadel introduces the vampire and the goatman. Vampires usually travel alone and are incredibly powerful in melee and magic combat. The best way to deal with them is just keep your distance and not let them get close, especially if they activate in a cursed buff. Goatmen are usually melee and ranged, but can sometimes have magic stabs, and they like to travel in packs as well. They're sort of like much stronger humans and like to get drunk all the time. So unless you have an army of your own, it's best to keep your distance from these guys. I don't even care. I'm just gonna keep tanking it, and I'm just gonna keep healing my boys. The amount of enemies and small rooms that you have to get through makes it incredibly stressing, and I'm always on edge when I reach this point of the game. Certain spells like magic mapping and extra heal are honestly the big reason I got through this place so effectively to begin with. On the 3rd floor of this area exists another secret stage, which we actually will go through very quickly. Known as Brahm's Castle, there's also a lot of treasure and enemies in it, much like other secret rooms that you'll find earlier in the run. However, we're going to skip through all of that and just beeline straight to the boss, because he actually holds an artifact cape that I really want to get. Known as Wraith's Gown, it's the coolest cloak in the entire game. It offers levitation and mana regen. Pair this with a max capacity boiler from the automaton and a vampire double, and suddenly you're making massive amounts of mana every second.
Yes! Yeah!
By this point, you have to be incredibly careful, pick your fights very wisely, and try not to get in the ass as you make your way through the next 5 stages of hell and finally make it to the Magisters. All right, here we go. These twin lich are tough as they could easily shred your health to smithereens if they wanted to, and it can be really hard to deal with one or the other when both of them focus you down at the same time. But see, this is why we dominate the cockatrice. The cockatrice's insane stats, believe it or not, can actually compete with the twins. So even by just getting 1 or 2 of these guys, you'll be able to hold your own against the Magisters, and it will be more of a fair fight. But at long last, after many attempts, oh my God! We finally complete the Hardcorest Joker challenge. And that's probably gotta be the goofiest, toughest shit I've ever made myself do in Barony for no reason whatsoever. If you think there's any other insane thing I should try and do, just kind of let me know in the comments and I might do it, because I don't know, it's fun to torture myself every now and then, you know? Till then, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like and subscribe if you did. Stick around for more, and I'll see you next time.